You're listening to Zoo Nation.
Ready? You have the cameras rolling?
Come on, man.
Welcome to Zoo Nation, where we talk about history as it unfolds and cover the political zoo of a nation that we find ourselves either trapped in or just living in voluntarily at this point. I mean, it's definitely unrecognizable from what we saw when we were younger, but you know, we want to make the best of what we have. So to continue with the intro, my name is Josh, and if you would just keep Nathan in your thoughts and prayers as he is sick. And doing better at this point, but wasn't able to join me today. So thank you for tuning into this episode of Zoo Nation anyway. You can find him, by the way, to do some plugs, Celtics fan, or yeah, I think it's Celtics. See, I get used to the traditional Scottish pronunciation, so Celt, but you know, Celtics is a completely different thing. So Celtics fan 33, you can find him there on Instagram, follow him, and you can find us at Zoo_Nation on Instagram as well, and there will be plugs and links in the description for that, as well as links to the sources that I talk about in this episode of Zoo Nation. We always want to arm you with what we've covered. We always want to give you the source so that you can see, okay, this is what Josh and Nathan were looking at when they were covering the news from this angle. And we really try to do a couple on both sides. We do a decent amount, at least we have, from CNN and MSNBC, occasionally from Fox News. I found myself personally, just in my own personal life, reading from Newsmax as well as dailymail.uk, which dailymail.uk is British and it is definitely a globalist paper. It definitely leans left. And then Newsmax, of course, is more on the right. I used to read a lot of Daily Wire, but I don't really have the app anymore. I switched phones, and so I would need to do that. And I have used the Blaze in the past, but what I'm saying, guys, is to please arm yourself with truth. And this is what Nathan and I like to consistently talk about. You guys out there, when it comes to being informed, you don't need to turn to us for information. You can to hear our take. You can to hear about an article, but it's on you to go to that article and read it and to look at the research and see, is this indeed what is a fact, is factual. And so don't follow anyone, including Nathan and myself, with blind allegiance. We're not in the business of making hero worshipers or making robots. That's not, I mean, I might be in the business of robots if I go into robotics or mechatronics, but I'm not going to do that. So there's plenty of people though that are doing that, by the way. Speaking of a lucrative business and a money-making business, mechatronics is booming right now. So you should definitely consider that if you're thinking about a job. So I'm gonna have a really good show. I got my laptop pulled up and some sources, some stories to cover. And I've had some lighting issues, but right now they seem to be going all right. It's just another plug for you guys to support this show. We're gonna have a Substack link eventually where you can give money, and there's just a lot to do. But I think that the big news, before I picked up the laptop without really thinking, before I even go to what's on the laptop, these other stories, I think it's very important to begin with the really big story, which is that Joe Biden has decided to run. Before I even get into that, I'll just tell you, usually our episodes, I think our longest is about 2 hours. Somewhere around the 2 hour mark, maybe hour 45, maybe hour and a half. I'd have to actually go pull up the YouTube channel to look, but the average episode of Zoo Nation is 45 minutes to an hour. And that's not going to be the case today because I'm only half the show. It's going to be probably closer to the 30, maybe 45 minutes at the longest, but I'm thinking 30 minutes. And so as a result, it's not going to cover as much. I mean, I'm going to cover 3 stories like we usually try to cover 3 stories. Sometimes we cover more. And we've got a lot of things that we want to do. You may notice the format of the channel changing somewhat. We're going to keep the same logo, at least right now. But we want to include some different segments to both entertain but also to inform. Because if we can do both of those things at once, if you watch us for the entertainment value but also for the information, we feel like we would be serving you well. And the other thing that Nathan and I really want to do is at some point do maybe some kind of a Zoo Nation bonus or Zoo Nation special where him and I just sit and talk nerd stuff. I mean, a lot of you guys out there are nerds like us. You're political nerds. You're probably nerds in other ways as well. And we want to just talk about the arts, talk about Lord of the Rings, talk about Chronicles of Narnia, talk about DC, talk about Marvel. And we did some when I had Nathan from Zoo Nation, this channel, this podcast. I had Nathan on my podcast, and we talked a little bit about some of the things that he's interested in, games and other things like that. But we want to, at some point, do a bonus or a special episode. It's probably not going to be a full hour, but we'll determine that ahead of time. What I think we're going to do, although I got to get with Nathan on this, is we will talk about it, and then in the next episode we'll have a formal announcement about when and where. Where meaning the episode number, and when, how soon, and we'll get that on the books. So we want to once in a while talk about something that is not completely political, although it will still be political because I'm sure there's going to be things we have to say about, oh, well, this here reminds me of this political theme here, because that's how a lot of art is, even if it's just about objective truth. Objective truth is under attack right now, and y'all know that. If you're watching this podcast, you know that objective truth is under attack. It's all about his truth, her truth, your truth, my truth. And that's the thing. And so when you see different ideas, different philosophy in art of any kind, not just comic books, film. I mean, that's another thing we want to talk about, film. Then it's easy to see the parallels. I'm not going to make any comparisons between what the orcs in Lord of the Rings remind me of, but anyway. So we're going to cut now to the big announcement speech, by which I mean a 3-minute long video that's pre-recorded, of Joe Biden making the announcement. Joe Biden is running again, guys. Number 46, good old 46, good old Brandon, as he's endearingly called in Alabama and the South, at Talladega, chants. And the chant was misunderstood. That was one thing, I think I told this to Nathan one time, I got mixed up. I thought that originally the people in the stadium were chanting, "Let's go Brandon," and then the media thought that they were saying F Joe Biden, when really it was the other way around. Because my dad had said there were some people chanting F Biden, and then when I heard the "Let's go Brandon" thing, I thought, oh, maybe, I didn't know who made the mistake is the thing. I didn't know if it was the media or if the crowd was misunderstood or what happened. But yeah, the crowd was misunderstood, but the media said they were saying "Let's go Brandon," which I'm not really for. I'm not offended by "Let's go Brandon," but we all know it's an expletive, and I think that as Christians who really shouldn't be talking that way, again, none of us are perfect. We're all imperfect people, but we shouldn't be dropping F-bombs or making a habit anyway of just cussing and swearing. And people that do that, unfortunately, kind of tarnish their Christian witness. And to do that as what's supposed to be the Christian Values Party, the Republican Party, the Christian Values Party is what it really ought to be. It's not right to walk around being like, yeah, LGB, let's go Brandon. And again, I'm not necessarily offended because, look, I get there's atheists and agnostics and people that are not necessarily people of faith, Christians, that are going with the whole "Let's go Brandon" thing. It's definitely a dead meme at this point. I mean, it has been beaten. That horse has been beaten and beaten and beaten where it's no longer a horse, it's just a bloody pulp. But anyway, we got to go now to the announcement video. And I really want to talk about this again, by the way. I'm probably going to do a lot of retread, at least quickly, with Nathan when he comes on so that you can hear his take because, of course, he's got valuable insight into all of this stuff. He brings a bit of a different angle than I do. And so, I mean, otherwise, why would the two of us sit down together if we were both parroting the exact same thing? Now, we actually have been told that we both sound too similar which is funny because I'm definitely a little bit shoutier, as you can tell from my voice right now. I'm definitely different than just a typical conservative. I'm hard right, and he's right, meaning Nathan, but he's more of like a libertarian conservative. And what's funny is I used to be a straight up libertarian. If you watch the early episodes of Zoo Nation, I was just a libertarian. I've talked at length on my channel about why. But for that reason, he's a libertarian conservative. I'm more of a right winger / conservative leaning right winger, pretty hard right. And for that reason, we're different from each other, which is a good thing, not a bad thing. I mean, I was listening to one person talk about, do you watch many shows where there's disagreement between the two people hosting? And look, the thing is, we agree on the big stuff. We do, which is why we don't sit here and critique one another. All nonstop anyway. We have limits of, well, we'll push here, but we won't push here because it's not productive, right? We're not here to have a debate. We might do a debate at some point. One of us decides we come on one side of one issue and decide of another issue. Again, this is kind of just some ideas that we have, and you tell us in the comment section, what do you watch that? Would you want some kind of a debate? Although it wouldn't be a good example, but let's just pretend hypothetically, if I were on the side of Russia and he were on the side of Ukraine, we actually are in reality both on the side of Ukraine more than the side of Russia. But if by some stretch I was on the other side, would you want to see a debate like that? Would you want us to bring on a guest that would be arguing from the pro-Putin, pro-Russia side? And look, we wouldn't want to get banned off YouTube, right? We want to be careful. Might have to put it on Odyssey and or Rumble and put just clips of it up here and fight censorship as much as we can. Or we might put it up on YouTube and let the chips fall where they may. However, because of some recent developments regarding censorship, we've had episodes pulled down. And that's the other reminder here, guys, is if you see an episode number that doesn't make any sense, you're like, how come they went from episode 15 to episode 17 or episode 12 to episode 14? The episode is up. It's on Rumble or Odyssey, though. So please find us on Rumble and Odyssey. I really need to be saying this towards the beginning of the episode. But keep that in mind, guys. That's what's going on. So finally, all of that said, since Nathan and I are a little bit different from each other, and I want to hear his take on Biden announcing, I want to hear his take on pretty much everything that I'm going to be talking about today. I'm going to be very quick with what I say because I want him to be there to either agree and add facts or to have a counter argument. And so anyway, now I present to you the 46th, or is it the 47th? I'm pulling a Joe Biden. I'm joking. So here's the 46th president of the United States. I had a Fetterman moment. I'm looking like here, like Nathan's here and he's not. But I had a Fetterman moment. Whenever he messes up, he has a Joe Biden moment. Or an AOC moment. That'd be fun. But he's not a woman. Or is he? I mean, in this day and time, who knows? He may identify as a woman. Okay. He's not here to smack me. So when he watches this in the post-op, he's going to be like, oh, man, why are you joking about me like that? But no, Joe Biden brain, and then pointing at myself, John Fetterman brain. I have the legitimate, I'm 6'8". I have the legitimate thought about shaving and going with just a goatee and going and acting like I'm John Fetterman. I'm putting on like one of those bald caps. But back to the story, guys. I know I'm going all over the place. Nathan's kind of here to keep me a little bit more straight. We've got the 46th President's video, and to cue the clip, I hope you enjoy.
Freedom, personal freedom is fundamental to who we are as Americans. There's nothing more important, nothing more sacred. That's been the work of my first term, to fight for our democracy. This shouldn't be a red revolution. To protect our rights, to make sure that everyone in this country is treated equally and that everyone is given a fair shot at making it. But you know, around the country, MAGA extremists are lining up to take on those bedrock freedoms, cutting Social Security that you paid for your entire life while cutting taxes from the very wealthy, dictating what health care decisions women can make, banning books, and telling people who they can love, all while making it more difficult for you to be able to vote. When I ran for president 4 years ago, I said we're in a battle for the soul of America, and we still are. The question we're facing is whether in the years ahead we have more freedom or less freedom, more rights or fewer. I know what I want the answer to be, and I think you do too. This is not a time to be complacent. That's why I'm running for re-election. Because I know America. I know we're good and decent people. I know we're still a country that believes in honesty and respect and treating each other with dignity. That we're a nation where we give hate no safe harbor. We believe that everyone is equal, that everyone should be given a fair shot to succeed in this country. Thank you for choosing us. Every generation Americans has faced a moment when they have to defend democracy. Stand up for our personal freedom. Stand up for the right to vote and our civil rights. And this is our moment. So if you're with me, go to joebiden.com and sign up. Let's finish this job. I know we can. Because this is the United States of America. There's nothing, simply nothing we cannot do if we do it together.
Wow. Okay. I want to give some credit. Not bad optics wise. He did launch an attack against the MAGA Republicans who want to lower taxes and cut Social Security. That was actually what was said. And take away rights, ban books, and put laws on who you can love. That's how it's always framed, isn't it? That's how it's always framed, who people can love. It's not about, oh, we view this behavior as reprobate, as sinful, and we want it to stop, and we want what's best for the people, which is to tell them, look, you're not going to be happy in a same-sex relationship. Look, you're going to be serving the God of this world, serving yourself as a God, rather than the one true God. So you shouldn't do this. You should not worship yourself and worship the God of this world. You should worship the one true God and do what he says, right? And there's just a million directions to go with that. But yeah, that's how it's framed and phrased. And also the whole thing about banning books from school. It's like, yeah, so what books are banned from school? And y'all know this, right? Y'all know. It's critical race theory books. So books from which the teachings of Ibrahim, I think it is, ex-Kindi, come from. Other big ones. What's the other person's name? I think it's... so I knew a Hannah Nicole Jones, but this is, I think, is a Nicole Hannah Jones, if I remember correctly. I get them mixed up because I know someone that's literally the first and middle name are swapped, or new. I don't know them anymore. Former coworker, I think. But anyway, silly stuff. And the whole banning of the books thing is, okay, banning of books is not like you sitting there and watching this episode of The Fog in the Whirlwind as a 21-year-old, 24-year-old, 28-year-old cannot read a book. That's just banned. Or that, what's it called? I think it's called the Anarchist Cookbook, right? Or Anarchist Handbook. I think it's Cookbook, which talks about a lot of illegal stuff about, it's basically a terrorist book. If you get that book, you can get it. You can, I think, borrow it from the library even. But you do get put on a watch list for that. That's not what the Republicans or conservatives are talking about doing. They're not talking about, well, okay, if you read this as an adult, as a 22, 24, 28-year-old, then you're going to be in legal trouble or you're going to be put on a watch list. Not at all. What's been going on is in places like Florida, and I think another state has also done this, maybe Alabama, is saying, no, you cannot have this book put before our children's eyes. Have the teacher read it to them. Have this on an aside reading list. Can't do it. These books are off limits because they're sexual in nature. That's one side of it. The L and G, meaning lesbian, gay. The T, which is trans. You know, oh, this person is trans. They go by they, them pronouns instead of he, she pronouns. And then the next thing is the race stuff. Oh, and then this person said to the black person, I am sorry for my white privilege. Stuff like that, you know. Well, you see, back in 1619, which is when the country actually began, when there was slavery and slaves were brought here, because, you know, I think it was 1611 when Jamestown was first settled, but they argue, well, the first slaves came here in 1619. That's the whole 1619 project. And when conservatives say, you know what, we're not going to teach our kids that the little white kids are racist against the little brown kids or black kids. We're not going to teach them that. That's wrong. That is harmful to children. We're not going to allow that to happen. This is fun with taxpayer dollars. If you want to, black father, black mother, or white father, white mother, which is actually probably more common, tell your kids that white person out there, or you as a white person, are racist, then unfortunately there's not a whole lot we can do about that. You're going to grow up and we're going to have to deal with you. You know, we're going to have to deal with you when you come in and clock in and you treat people around you like crap because you've been taught your entire life that they're racist against you, that you're somehow a victim. And we'll put up with you as much as we can until you at least get fired or promoted. Or hey, you may be president someday. If you run on that as your platform, you can go to the victim party and say, hey, you're a victim and you're useful to me, and I'm a victim and I'm useful to you. So how about we help each other out? That's pretty much the pitch. That's pretty much the pitch. So crazy that the angle is they're banning books, and the whole, that's where the whole, oh, don't say gay thing came from, which is just ridiculous. And so that's how it's couched. And also tax cuts, which are for the entire working class. And actually the biggest tax cut for poor people is framed as tax cuts for the wealthy. That's the other thing. And then cutting Social Security and Medicare. And look, are there Republicans that are for that? Yeah, and I'm honestly one of them. But the other way of going about this is the Trump way, which is, well, if we enforce tax laws and have but cut them but enforce them, then businesses will do better because of less regulation and less taxes. And then what taxes we do take will be higher because of how prosperous they are. That is not a bad planned strategy. And I don't know if that happened, like regarding revenue brought into the federal government while Trump was in office. I don't know if it was more or if it was less. But the funny thing about this, and I love how Mike Pence framed this. I mean, we have to really bring the framing back to bear upon the left, the Democrats, because they like to say, oh, tax cuts for the wealthy. And at one point, I think it was when Pence was debating Harris, Harris said, well, whenever we get into office, we're going to get rid of the Trump tax plan, something like that. And Pence, you know, just when it was his turn to speak, said, you heard it. On day one, Kamala Harris and Joe Biden are going to raise your taxes. And she shook her head and it's like, well, what did you just say? You just said that you're going to get rid of the Trump tax plan. So this is how dishonest these people are. So I haven't even gotten into any other stuff, and we're already well on our way to 30 minutes. So I think we're going to go a little over 30 minutes, hopefully not over 45. But yeah, let me know what you think. I mean, do you think that the old geezer, that 80-year-old, 81-year-old Joe Biden has it in him? Let's see how old he is. How old is Joe Biden? But do you think he can? I mean, it's really, really a legitimate question. A lot of people thought he's not going to make it into his first term. And he's getting through his first term. He's not done. All right, Joe Biden is, okay, there's an article that pops up. Here we go, 80 years old. Right as of, let's see, April the 29th of 2023. I lose track of what day it is. April 29th of 2023. Oh, interesting. But as of now, Biden is 80 years old. I see an article, North Korea, Kim Jong-un's sister says Joe Biden is in his dotage. Dotage? That's interesting. But yeah, he is 80 years old. So, think about that. Do you think that, I mean, let's see, so he would be, I think he turns 80, let's see, he was born in November. So he will turn 81 in November of this year, right? So this year he will turn 81. He will be reelected at 81, just looks like a couple weeks before he turns 82. So he will be 82 years old shortly after the election of 2024. And Trump's not much younger, to be fair. I think Trump will be 78. He's not 78 now, but I think he will be 78. And Trump, that's 4 years younger. And so Trump will be leaving office at about the same time that Biden will leave office if he loses this November. Biden will be in his mid-80s by the time he leaves if he is reelected. And I don't think many people think he has it in him. And the other thing that I think about it for his chances is a lot of people said things along the lines of, oh, if we knew about the Hunter Biden story, knew that was legitimate instead of being banned as Russian disinformation, if we knew that that was real, then it would have affected how he voted. I don't know if independents and Democrats are going to turn out in as huge numbers. I think specifically people of color, sorry for using the left's language, black people and Hispanic people. That's really what it is. I mean, also you can throw in, I guess, Middle Easterners as well and Asians. I don't know if Asians are considered people of color, though, because, they have Asian privilege, apparently. So, but yeah, people of color. It's you can't say the old 1960s phrase, though. You can't reverse those words. So back to it. I don't think they turn out. I just don't think that they get all passionate like, yeah, Biden, woohoo, this time. Because, now maybe they will. Maybe the sign from the NBA, LeBron James and Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson of Hollywood will hold up the signs that say vote and say, I endorse Joe Biden again because the fascists are on their way. The fascists are on their way. Maybe they will. And if they do, there's a chance that people buy into it and come out in such numbers. I'm not going to say anything else about repeating of history in an election year. Definitely not. Hindsight is 20/20, as they say. So I'm not going to go there because I don't want this taken down right now, and also I don't need to ramble on about that. But all those factors together, the signs, hindsight being 20/20, and everything like that, there's a chance that he is reelected. It's not a guarantee, but I do think there's a high chance that independents stay home. And even if a lot of black people, Hispanics, and Middle Easterners and Asians turn out, I think a lot of people are going to stay home still. They're just going to be like, we don't want to come out. It's boring to them. So, man, it is the worst when you feel like you can't sneeze. Excuse me, guys. So, we got to go on to this really big story. I have to cover it in this episode. I've spent almost the entire show talking about Biden running again, which how can I not? I mean, he's a sitting president. I'm not one of those people that says not my president because it's a different guy. So, the Murdochs. This is the next segment. Murdochs, Sky News Australia. Tucker Carlson thought he was bigger than Fox. So this is from Newsmax.com, as previously said. It talks about Sky News Australia, which I did not realize was owned by Rupert Murdoch, Fox News, and the Murdochs are offering the clearest explanation as to why they fired top-rated host Tucker Carlson using their wholly owned television news outlet in Australia. Now, I gotta say, maybe it'll go on to say this here. I haven't really looked at this much. Fox, is actually Laken Murdoch. I thought it was Rupert Murdoch. There's two owners. Aren't they two brothers? Yeah, I think so. Basically, I have heard, though, I will say, maybe it goes into this in this article, that Tucker has been benched. He's not going to have any more shows, but he's actually still on salary, to my knowledge. He's still getting paid. He's just not going to be doing any shows. He's not been fired. Because, again, I said this a while ago on my show. I have a feeling that he was offered a deal, and he said, nah, not going to work for me. And so then he... They said, well, then that means you're not going to be recording any shows. And that's when this hit the news, right? What about, there's things about the 2020 election that he said. And what's funny is Sean Hannity said the same thing, if not more. And now Sean Hannity's like, nah, I never believed that. And Tucker, I don't know. I feel like Tucker is usually leaving things pretty ambiguous when he talks about things. He says, well, what do you think? He'll say to the audience, this is what the American people need to know, and what do you think is the truth? I kind of tried. That's my Tucker impression. It's not the best. So basically, yeah, I've heard that he's been benched, but he's not been fired. There's a difference. There's a difference between getting kicked off an NFL team, kicked off the Carolina Panthers, and being put on the bench by your coach. So are offering the clearest explanation as to why, and again, this is Newsmax saying this, why they fired top-rated host Tucker Carlson using their wholly owned television news outlet in Australia. On Tuesday, Sky News Australia, owned by Fox sister company News Corp, came out swinging about Tucker Carlson's removal, reporting he was sacked essentially for thinking he was bigger than Fox News. One of Sky News' biggest anchors, Andrew Bolt, shared the news report, claiming Fox CEO Lachlan Murdoch alone made the decision to axe Carlson alone. Okay, it uses the word twice there. Interesting. These guys, I think, need to proofread a little bit. The Sky's news report contradicts some U.S. news sources claiming father Rupert Murdoch made the decision. Okay. Yeah, that sounds a little more accurate. The message is out, or I'm not going to do my attempt at an Australian accent. The message is out, Bolt said during his program Tuesday. If you threaten your station or your newspaper by going a bit nuts, saying all sorts of wild things that maybe are false, or maybe you haven't even bothered to check enough, it doesn't matter how big you are. You are never bigger than the media organization that actually made you. Fox did not make Tucker Carlson. They certainly improved his numbers. He got very, very popular, but he's been in media for a very long time. Fox News is part of the Murdoch media empire that includes Sky News, Bolt added. Tucker was actually sacked, and some outlets have reported just before I went to air, he was sacked by Lachlan Murdoch, the day-to-day boss of News Corp. Fox News has lost other giants before, said Bolt, including Roger Ailes. He died, didn't he? No, he got fired before he died. Glenn Beck, that was a big deal. Megyn Kelly, okay, giant. Yeah, Megyn Kelly, a giant. And Bill O'Reilly. Bill O'Reilly was a giant. I'm not a fan of Bill O'Reilly. And it's only gotten stronger. But still, maybe now some other hosts, and not just Fox News, will realize it's Lachlan Murdoch who runs the business and it's not them. Bolt also noted that the $785.7 million Dominion lawsuit settlement, which happened because some Fox News hosts have gone nuts pushing the fake news that Donald Trump, I'm reading from Newsmax, because some Fox News hosts, says Newsmax, have gone nuts pushing the fake news that Donald Trump was beaten at the last election by voting machines that are somehow been rigged. This is what Newsmax says, but said that Carlson did not push that lie like some other people at Fox News. Says the Newsmax article. He was skeptical, but the court battle with Dominion Company that made these voting machines revealed that he did not know those machines, they weren't rigged, and the lie was a lie, yet he still told another host that her producer should be fired for saying so. Yeah, interesting. Carlson, though, is also being sued by a producer claiming he had a misogynist workplace at Bolt, adding that there had been emails surfacing that the now former host had referred to a woman by using an obscene term. However, he said his suspicion is that it was Carlson's final editorial Friday night that led Lachlan to fire him. Maybe I'm imagining that bit because, of course, the Murdochs are famous for allowing people like me to have their own opinions, Bolt acknowledged. However, he said that Carlson was pushing dangerous and plainly false conspiracy theories that painted Ukraine as hopelessly corrupt and the Biden team as liars for supporting it. Such propaganda was gold to Russian tyrant Vladimir Putin, said Bolt. Of course, Carlson's claims were repeated endlessly on Russian TV to justify Russia's brutal invasion of Ukraine. Last Friday, Carlson claimed that the United States was maintaining secret biolabs in a primitive country like Ukraine, as well as sensitive nuclear technology, said Bolt. So, very interesting, and there is a video that I want you to see. I'm going to post this before I close up the Tucker Carlson thing. So enjoy watching the Tucker Carlson video.
Good evening, it's Tucker Carlson. One of the first things you realize when you step outside the noise for a few days is how many genuinely nice people there are in this country. Kind and decent people, people who really care about what's true, and a bunch of hilarious people also. A lot of those. It's got to be the majority of the population, even now. So that's heartening. The other thing you notice when you take a little time off is how unbelievably stupid most of the debates you see on television are. They're completely irrelevant. They mean nothing. In 5 years, we won't even remember that we had them. Trust me, as someone who's participated. And yet at the same time, and this is the amazing thing, the undeniably big topics, the ones that will define our future, get virtually no discussion at all. War, civil liberties, emerging science, demographic change, corporate power, natural resources. When was the last time you heard a legitimate debate about any of those issues? It's been a long time. Debates like that are not permitted in American media. Both political parties and their donors have reached consensus on what benefits them, and
United States looks very much like a one-party state. That's a depressing realization, but it's not permanent. Our current orthodoxies won't last. They're brain dead. Nobody actually believes them. Hardly anyone's life is improved by them. This moment is too inherently ridiculous to continue, and so it won't. The people in charge know this. That's why they're hysterical and aggressive. They're afraid. They've given up persuasion. They're resorting to force. But it won't work. When honest people say what's true, calmly and without embarrassment, they become powerful. At the same time, the liars who've been trying to silence them shrink. They become weaker. That's the iron law of the universe. True things prevail. Where can you still find Americans saying true things? There aren't many places left, but there are some, and that's enough. As long as you can hear the words, there is hope. See you soon.
All right, and as much as I want to linger, I'll talk about it more with Nathan. So to move on, we have to go into a little bit of Ukraine. So this is from newsmax.com. It's about an archbishop, a man of the God, so to speak, supposed to be a leader of a church in Russia. And what you're going to hear is funny because, I mean, Tucker Carlson was talking about Russia. And here we go. Archbishop. Moscow weaponizes Russian Orthodox Church against Ukraine. I wanted to talk about Ukraine. So, yeah, basically that's what we got, guys. We have a Russian archbishop speaking about Ukraine, and he is head of the ROC, also known as the Russian Orthodox Church, and saying, yay, Russia should invade Ukraine. This is this archbishop of the ROC speaking. He's endorsing it, is what it comes down to. Now, one thing that you should know, what all has this person been involved in? And we're going to go into that. So in the media coverage of Ukraine, one key factor has received relatively little attention: the role of the Russian Orthodox Church in supporting this unjustified and brutal war. In the Kremlin's view, and in the explicit words, Patriarch Kirill of Moscow, the leader of the ROC, Russian Orthodox Church, the brutal assault against Ukraine is a metaphysical battle. I don't know why I went British there. Shockingly, the ROC has given spiritual and ideological justification for the most barbaric war Europe has witnessed since World War II, as Russian aggressors torture and behead Ukrainian POWs as they rip Ukrainian children from their families and deport them to places unknown. I've talked about that on my podcast, under the guise of evacuation schemes, as they engage in atrocities unheard of in our civilized world. The ROC, Russian Orthodox Church, has worked to incite war fervor, even goading the faithful in these most violent efforts. It should be no surprise to know that Patriarch Kirill was once a former KGB agent tasked with repudiating criticisms of religious oppression in the Soviet Union. So basically, who is this guy who's now the head of the Russian Orthodox Church? One of them. He used to be the Russian Orthodox guy that the Soviet Union would trot out and say, no, Soviet Union is not persecuting religion in America, in Soviet Union. No, we are all for inclusion. No, we allow there to be Soviet Union religion as long as it is approved. I mean, as long as it does not violate freedom of speech. Weird stuff. So yeah, this head of the ROC used to be a KGB agent. It begs the question: how many of these people are in positions of authority? How many of these former KGB agents? I mean, clearly the president, although we might want to call him the premier of Russia, is former KGB, right? And so then you got this guy in the Russian Orthodox Church who's also KGB, or formerly was. I mean, he's not currently KGB because the KGB was disbanded in 1991 when the Soviet Union fell. So trying to load the next story, which is also about Ukraine. But think about this, guys. Think about this. Of course, Russia, any country, is going to say, God is on our side, right? And Russia's going to do that as well. What needs to be the case is we need to be on God's side. We need to get ourselves right with God, not say, God, come down here and help. I mean, sometimes it's good to pray that, to ask God to do things. That's one thing. But we need to change ourselves. God does not need to change himself. God does not change. Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever. Okay, other big story, which I'm only going to cover very quickly. Ukraine's allies have sent 1,550 armored vehicles and 230 tanks, says NATO. NATO allies and partner countries have delivered more than 98% of the combat vehicles promised to Ukraine to fight Russia's invasion, and the military alliance's chief has said Thursday, giving Kiev a bigger punch as contemplates a counteroffensive. Along with more than 1,550 armored vehicles, 230 tanks and other equipment, Ukraine's allies have sent vast amounts of ammunition and trained and equipped more than 9 new Ukrainian brigades. I wonder how many older Ukrainian brigades. NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg said. More than 30,000 troops are estimated to make up the new brigades. Some NATO partner countries such as Sweden, which is ethnically where I'm from, and Australia, which is where Sky News is, have also provided armored vehicles. So this just feels to me like World War III is shaping up, guys. This is why I keep covering this. We're watching history as it unfolds. This is an intro. We are. And it's scary, but I have to cover the war in Russia-Ukraine because this could really be a weird situation. And with 1,550 armored vehicles going in, that's a huge number. 30,000 troops are estimated to make up the new brigades. We're talking about a huge army, guys. So please think about this. And please look up the sources that are going to be in the description and in the comments, guys. Thank you so much for watching, Zoo Nation. And please find this episode and share it with your friends. And stay tuned for the next one when Nathan rejoins us. Thank you.